This marks the year that federal stimulus money ends. Harrisburg used much of that money to patch up the education budget. Now it's gone.
The Boyertown School District faces a $6.5 million budget deficit.
People want to remove those costs or do those cost cutting as far away from the students and student experiences as possible.
You cannot tell me that there are not ways to save money to cut more. There are ways there.
And I know you're looking at the lesser of two evils, but you know when you choose that, you're still choosing evil.
A salary freeze district-wide and a tax increase.
6 scenarios was set up to see how far the budgetary impact would go. The main issue with taxpayers, educators, and students is the first scenario. No tax increase and no teacher pay freeze. If passed by the school board, life in the Boyertown Area School District as we know it would be dramatically changed.
I signed that paper.
We are the world.
When Harrisburg cut our funding, we have no money. Nobody has come up with a miracle answer yet.
Vote the meeting on!
This is Kurt.
And we are the children.
We're Boyertown proud here, and I'm Boyertown proud tonight.
The fate of life in the Boyertown Area School District is uncertain. In the words of Dr. Betts, preparing for the worst, hoping for the best.
It's time to make a better place for Boyertown and the community. Thanks.
Is the announcement of previous executive sessions. On May 24th, we had a negotiations personnel session that lasted for approximately 70 minutes. On May 31st, we had a personnel session which lasted for 90 minutes.
Tonight is an important night. We are going to be in the process of putting up for vote the final budget. And with no further ado, I go to item number 2, 2011-2012 final budget approval. In accordance with Special Session Act 1 of 2006 in Pennsylvania School Code, the Boyertown Area School District must adopt the budget and establish the various tax rates for the upcoming year. I am recommending that the Board of School Directors approves the final 2011-2012 budget as presented.
Any questions or comments about this budget? Mr. Trechanik.
I really have problems with this budget. Librarians and custodians and secretaries who basically have no backup support. They don't have they are not immune from furloughs and demotions and those type of activities. And I think we need to look someplace else to make up the deficiencies in the budget.
Mr. Nichols.
I agree with Mr. Trechanik on that one, and on the IT positions, you retained 2 of them. I would request we only retain 1 at this time. I would like to reduce the IT positions to 1 instead of 2 in exchange for retaining the secondary library clerks and the elementary library clerks.
In the June 7th Finance Committee meeting, we talked about not furloughing any employees, therefore keeping those 2 individuals. If we would only retain 1, That would come at a savings of $35,000. We're dealing with 11 library clerks, and to retain their current health care benefits, that would add $100,000 to the expenditure side. So we're netting an increase of this budget by $65,000.
I can't believe we're at the 11th hour and over 20-some meetings, finance meetings, and everything we went through, that now we're sitting and nitpicking on this position, that position. This should have all, with all the finance meetings we had, this should have all been straightened out. So for that reason alone, I don't want to see the taxpayers get an increase, but it already happened. We already voted on that. We voted on the preliminary budget, which I don't understand the people that voted on that, why they're changing it tonight.
I think way back in April, the 1st of April, when we started the very serious in-depth finance committee meetings with all of the public involved, I personally have been very strongly stating a district-wide salary freeze, maximum tax increase, and we asked for scenarios as to what those implications were. And in doing so, we received a scenario 4, which included keeping everyone's job and their benefits. We did not want people in our district to lose their jobs.
This is saying, max tax, full freeze. So, for example, if we're saving over $3 million here now, we're still about $3 million deficient. That's going to fall upon the taxpayers. So next year, again, if the economy is bad, and we have basically a similar scenario, that means again that taxpayers are going to be hit with about another $3 million.
I don't think we as board members understand all of what those clerks actually do in the library. I'm very concerned about the loss of that service for our children.
Full freeze is basically fixed. Max tax is variable. So if the economy again next year is bad, then we have full freeze again. As I said, that's all fixed. So the onus is going to fall on the taxpayers again, because whatever is deficient is going to be max tax.
Is there a motion and a second to approve the budget as presented?
Mr. Sultana, yes, there was. However, during the term of discussion regarding that motion, I think Mr. Nichols and Mr. Crosley were making proposals and changing. Both those proposals, though, were never addressed. The proposals regarding switching the IT position for the library.
Technically, the only motion that's before the board is to approve the budget as presented, unless the person who made the motion and seconded the motion would be willing to agree to any of the amendments suggested.
Mr. Tuchanik, do you accept his friendly amendment to the proposed budget? Yes. You do. Mrs. Darrow?
So the motion's not been accepted via friendly amendment, so the only option at this point in time is a motion to amend or to vote on the budget as presented. And I presume in order to have a balanced budget, Mr. Savfk, we would have to increase the percentage increase, or would we, where would the sources of fund come from?
Obviously, if you're going to be increasing expenditures, you would have to find another area in the expenditure side to reduce by $65,000, or your other option is to increase revenue by $65,000. I did some quick calculations, and $65,000 would add 0.03 to our current millage, which would raise the millage to 21.88 in Berks and 21.50 in Montgomery.
Is that your motion?
Yes, if it could be, if we could get a dollar amount as to how that affects the taxpayer.
There obviously we need a second.
I'll second. Okay, this is the vote to adopt the final budget as amended. Mrs. Deeroff?
I'm going to have to vote no.
Mr. Haas?
I too am really surprised that all this time commitment has produced this budget. I'm still voting no on the budget.
Mrs. Hartford?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols? Yes. Mr. Tuchanik?
No.
Mrs. Usavich?
Yes.
Mr. Crosley?
Yes.
Mrs. Curry?
No.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
5-4, the budget is adopted. as amended.
Certainly cause for celebration. After many, many, many months and hours spent together, I want to thank the board for all their time and the community, teachers and everyone who put their whole heart and soul into making this happen. And of course the DAE and all employees of the district for taking a full salary freeze, and the taxpayers for assisting us with a modest tax increase to essentially save our programs for the next several years. So thank you so much.
Okay, the next item is public comment number 2, and we do have some people that wish to speak.
But when you're in the middle of a smart board lesson and something goes wrong, you can't drop everything to run to the phone away from the smart board while you have 25 pairs of eyeballs staring at you, wondering what you're going to do. And then you have to go to plan B. So you may as well plan 2 lessons if you're going to do a smart board lesson.
We have board members up here who talk about the need to save jobs and the need to save library aides. Yet they vote against a proposal when it's time to vote on it.
$35,000 in this budget is not a lot of money. And it seems to me that you could have found that someplace else. I agree that today and tonight is not the time to look for that. This could have been done a long time ago. So I am very happy for me, but I have to tell you that it is very bittersweet because someone is waking up tomorrow and they don't have a job.
I believe it should be in the conference, but I'm not sure